gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome once again. This is, of course, your boy Bernie here on the charts, man. You can tell it's been a long day for me on here on the charts. Like I said, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. I do apologize, guys, for Tuesdays and Thursdays. They will probably, to be honest with you, they're going to be early. They're going to be at the usual times that we try and do it at, probably like that 3:35 to 3:40 range. Just because of the situation at hand, you know, obviously basketball training comes at around like the 6 o'clock mark, so that's when I'm going to be doing my stuff there. So I do apologize to everybody that, you know, basketball training will be taking place there. And so, like I said, it'll be definitely different than what we're used to here on the charge. But again, we will have my boy Logan here probably, you know, another one of these days, and we'll try and keep it consistent with Logan coming on the show. And you know, we'll kind of take it on from there. But like I said, guys, welcome in once again. This is, of course, your boy Bernie here. Like I said, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. And boy, do we have some real basketball news to talk about. We have a couple things to talk about. Obviously, the title of this is Bradley Beal is okay being in Washington, and this, of course, stems from this article that I'll pull us live to just right quick. Seems like this is way off center. Let me just bring this over. Yoink. Alrighty, we are live here. So, reading the article, Bradley Beal has so far expressed a preference to remain in Washington, the Wizards, and does not want to be traded, sources tell The Athletic. The Wizards have no interest in trading Beal given his position. No, Beal has privately frustrated and confessed his perpetual portrayal of his situation, according to some sources familiar with this thinking. I mean, that, you know, that, to be honest with you guys, whenever you hear that, I just think that that's kind of like some, I know what Shams and Fred Katz are trying to do on The Athletic. I do respect them for that, but to say like sources familiar with this thinking, I mean, let's really break that down. And the reason why I kind of wanted to get on here to talk about this article is because this phrase to me, and we've seen so many kind of similar topics for basketball, and it's this. Sources familiar with this thinking. I mean, what could that be? Could that be someone that's not in his camp? Could that be someone that's not even, you know, remotely close to Beal? Sources familiar with his thinking. So that could mean that, for example, what happened with James Harden, like, that's someone that's familiar with that sort of situation. It's like, yeah, I think I know what Beal's trying to do. You know what I'm trying to say here is that I feel like this is a little bit of a manipulation from Shams and The Athletic, and this kind of disappoints me from a guy like Sham and the people over at The Athletic, because I do love their content, but when you say like sources familiar with this thinking, that doesn't tell me anything. That just tells me that there may have been one time where one disgruntled NBA player had the similar situation that he was like, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to try and battle it out. I mean, that's kind of the thing that I'm getting from this article. So again, guys, don't believe everything from The Athletic. Not saying to believe me. I'm saying to do your own research, do your own information digging, because there is going to be some people that do have the truth. Unfortunately, you know, the truth is very, I would say, it's very hit or miss depending on where you're getting it from. You know, Cuffs the Legend, I think, is a very actual, good, reliable source. I know that he's not verified, and of course, people are going to freak out about that. But I do think that he has some pretty good content on there, basketball-wise. You know, the other stuff isn't really my cup of tea, but basketball-wise, you know, Cuffs the Legend is, again, a good source to have. But also, you see here, like, you know, with Shams and Adrian Wojnarowski, with Brian Windhorst, with Zach Lowe. I mean, when I see this line where it says sources familiar with his thinking, how is that to me, as someone that is reading it, that someone that does have the Athletic, as, you know, because it's a paid subscription service? Why am I paying, you know, whatever I don't know how much you guys are paying for, but I'm paying $1 a month until for the next 12 months. But why would I want to pay $1 even if you're going to tell me that you don't have exclusive news on it? Because really what this is telling me is that they have no idea how Bradley Beal feels. And the reason why I titled it the article of Bradley Beal's okay in Washington, ? Is because we know that he's not okay in Washington. We know that Bradley Beal is frustrated there. Why else would Bradley Beal, like, when he looks on the bench and he's just like this, you know, kind of like head down, kind of like so defeated every time that he's on the court, because the Wizards, honestly, are probably one of the worst offensive teams in the NBA besides the Cleveland Cavaliers, you know, ranking-wise. This to me is where I honestly find it frustrating. Like I said, you pay however much, maybe you pay a little bit more for the Athletic than I do. That's just because it's the 12, just because it's a 12-month thing. But this to me is just utter nonsense from the Athletic. And I usually love the Athletic, but I have to call him out here because, like I said, sources familiar with his thinking. It's just like, how do you know that's the way he's going to act? Like, how do you know that Bradley Beal isn't going to be like, in a couple days later, be like, yeah, I want to trade. And then all of a sudden, Sham is like, oh, well, yeah, he's actually asking for a trade now. Like, I mean, like, what you could say, like, we're speculating that he probably is okay with being in Washington by the looks of things, by the looks of there hasn't been any formal trade requests. Like, you could say that, and I think that's probably a way better situation. I mean, you could also say that Shams is familiar with this thinking because Shams obviously has covered so much NBA. You could say the same thing about Adrian Wojnarowski. It's like I said, Zach Lowe, Brian Windhorst, all these people that report. Chris Haynes. You could talk about all these guys kind of doing the same sort of speculation. Unless you've actually talked to these players, unless you've actually said, from someone from Beal's camp has talked that Bradley Beal is visibly upset, but he's not asking for a trade. Like, I would be like, okay, dang, okay, we got some good news. We got some interesting news that Bradley Beal's camp is saying that he's actually fine with the way things are. So again, it's one of those situations that, in my opinion, I don't like at all. I don't think that that's necessarily the right way that the NBA news media should be covering it. You should be honest and truthful with what you're saying. Because like I said, sources familiar with this thinking, I mean, that could be anybody. That could be some Joe Schmo on the street that called it right one time and is like, yeah, I saw this before with James Harden. Or like, oh, I saw this before with Kevin Durant. Like, that's the thing. And like I said, don't take your news sources from everything. Don't like rely on just The Athletic. Don't rely on just ESPN, Yahoo News. Like, you need to rely on many other news outlets. Not saying mine, because again, I'm not someone that's reporting the news or trying to speculate. Or I'm more of a speculator. I'm more of a person that likes to discuss what's actually the facts that I know. Right? I mean, there's facts that many other people know that are more inside with the NBA than I am. I'm just looking at it from an outside perspective of, okay, this might happen, or hey, this is what I think could be a potential move or a potential trade, and other things like that. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get across to everybody here on The Charge, is that, like I said, we're a community of basketball opinions, news, and rumors. And we talk about the rumors, and this is one of the rumors here. But again, the one thing that will frustrate me more than anything in this world is just absolutely not having a non-story here. Because as soon as you say sources familiar with his thinking or anything similar to that type of narrative, I can already say that this story is null and void. Because look at this. Beal feels he's getting nitpicked for electing to remain with the Wizards after many of his peers receiving criticism for trade requests. And so you could say that maybe he is frustrated, or like he could say that he's getting kind of like bombarded because he doesn't want to trade, but many of his peers have requested trades before in a similar situation that Bradley Beal's in. And I do agree with that. I do agree with that sentiment that, Bradley Beal hasn't really, I would say Bradley Beal hasn't shown publicly, besides his facial expressions after every game, but no more so like in the post game and the pre-game. Well, a little bit in the post game, but you know what I mean? Like, we haven't seen him say like, you know what, man, I gave it everything to Washington, but it's time I move on. He didn't pull a James Harden. He didn't do any of that stuff. And so many people are kind of like, this is a little weird that Bradley Beal isn't doing that. And we know that Bradley Beal, like, for the Wizards' sake, they're not going to trade him. If I'm the Wizards, I'm keeping him because he has another 2 years on the contract. And I understand his line of thinking. I do wish that someone would go out and get him, offer the bag for him and say, all right, we're going to offer you this opportunity to get out of the Wizards and go to our team. I do think that there are teams that can make that trade package happen. I mean, we saw how much James Harden went for. I think Bradley Beal could go for the same amount. The question for me is, does someone try and make a move? And I think that Bradley Beal, I think he plays a little bit better than Ben Simmons, in my opinion, as to what the 76ers would like to do. I think the Celtics could also try and get him, but again, I think it would be hard because I think the Celtics would have to give up either Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, which I don't think the Celtics are willing to give up at this point. But it will be interesting to see, like I said, what team would be interested in getting Bradley Beal. But again, guys, don't fall for the manipulation from The Athletic. of saying sources familiar with his thinking or anything in that sort of frame or mindset, because we know that that's fake, fake, fake. Because like I said, that could be anything. That could be me saying like, oh, I've seen this before with Bradley Beal. He looks okay. He looks fine. He's happy. He's kind of chilling there. Like then that's the thing. Like it's just one of those things that you just don't want to spread that type of misinformation, in my opinion. Because look, we don't know what Bradley Beal's motive is so far right now as to how he really feels. Like we don't know truly how. Like we can see it in the body expression, see in the body language that he doesn't want to be there anymore. But maybe there's another motive as to why he's there. Maybe the money is just too good in the next couple of years where he's going to sign that max. Or maybe he gets to that point where he's good enough to get the max so that way in free agency he's able to acquire it. And so, like I said, this to me, like I said, is not something that I would take as a grain of salt. Because, like I said, it's one of those situations, if we go to the article itself, a Bradley Beal trade, sources say he doesn't want one right now inside the DC situation. And like I said, the article talks about Bradley Beal being frustrated. He has expressed that so far has expressed he wants to remain in the Wizards. But like this, sources with knowledge of the situation tell The Athletic, the Wizards have no interest in it. Amid call from public event, even ones around the league with the team, trying to look for it. He's privately been frustrated, and with the perpetual situation, according to sources familiar with his line of thinking. And I don't know who wrote this article. I think it is Shams and Fred Katz. So again, I am disappointed in Shams kind of writing this, or kind of, I would say, okaying this part of the article, because like I said, I do agree with, I would say, Bradley Beal not saying publicly that he wants to be traded. But like I said, sources familiar with his thinking. I mean, what does that mean? Like his thinking, could be okay, they actually are there with him and they're like, this is what he's thinking right now. Or it could be, we've seen this before happen, and this is what I think he's thinking right now. You know what I mean? What that term or what that phrase tells me is that either they have no idea how Bradley Beal feels right now, or they're speculating on their interpretation of what they think Bradley Beal's thinking, if that makes sense. So instead of saying, so this is how it should have been said. He's privately frustrated and confused with the perpetual portrayal of his situation, according to how we think Bradley Beal feels. Because, like I said, this could mean anything. This could mean that they're actually in his camp, or someone in his camp is saying, he's frustrated right now. He's really pissed off with the way that the Washington Wizards are playing. And like I said, that is, I would say, fake. Shams and Fred Katz. That is not a way to write the article. I'm sorry. I know that I spent 15 minutes almost ranting about how the Athletic article is going on about the situation, but I have to keep it 100 with you guys. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm not gonna try and go on with the narrative of what Shams and Fred Katz is trying to say when they themselves are not being really specific with what he means by sources familiar with his thinking. Because like I said, I could be familiar with his thinking. Because I've seen superstars, kind of play this hand before, and I could be like, yeah, we saw this before, and this is kind of what I'm thinking that he's going to do. And that's the thing. Shams could be the source familiar with it, or Fred Katz could be the source familiar with it. That's the thing that I want to get across from you guys. And I know that there's only one of us watching here, so hopefully you guys will kind of catch this on the back end if you do, because I know that a lot of you guys like to watch on the back end. But at the same time, it's one of those things, like I said, that is frustrating to me, because, like I said, I don't think that they're necessarily telling the whole truth. And I drink water because, man, it is, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm thirsty as hell. But, like I said, this to me, just not something that I would recommend. If you are going into journalism and doing things like that, the one thing I think as a viewer that we should start looking for is just key, I would say, phrases or sources or what they're saying is actually factual and actually not just them speculating. Because that sentence that I read to you guys right there was them speculating on how Bradley Beal thinks, because they don't know. They are probably confused as to why Bradley Beal has yet to demand a trade request. I'm sure that's why Shams wrote it. And so that's kind of my take on that whole situation. Some other interesting news that we'll talk about really quick is that Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic have been named NBA Players of the Month, which we haven't seen since I want to say 2013 with LaMarcus Aldridge, and I can't remember who else, but I know that this was also a huge deal in the NBA right now because there hasn't really been a Player of the Month from two bigs in forever. What it seems like I said, like LaMarcus Aldridge and I can't remember who the other person was, but I think that was the last time. And so, like I said, it's great to see that whole situation happen. And like I said, Jokic and Joel Embiid do deserve it. I'm not really a big fan of Embiid's kind of flopping, which I think it is kind of rampant right now. Thinking that LeBron James should have been ejected from a game, which is just laughable to me. But at the same time, you can't fault the guy for, averaging, 28, 11, and whatever. I don't think he has an assist record, but, Jokic is playing on a different level right now. 27, 12, and almost 9. Like, he's almost averaging a triple-double as a center, and, we haven't seen probably those type of numbers since probably Will Chamberlain. And so you're kind of seeing, I would say not magic, but sort of history in the making as it pertains to Jokic. But, again, guys, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of the whole situation with the whole Player of the Month? Are you surprised? Are you, disinterested in kind of the Player of the Month right now? I know the NBA right now is kind of going through this they're trying to figure out, how to balance these games out. And, in terms of there's so many games with COVID and many things like that. So they're trying to get that going from here on out. We also have a story that we'll talk about too, is that the NBA is to mandate players wearing better masks on the bench. So the NBA will begin requiring all players to wear KN95 or KF94 masks in all instances where required. The new policy will go into effect during next week. Players will be required to wear these masks in any situation. And to be honest with you, I think this is probably for the best. Again, I was kind of one of those people that I talked about earlier where I think that, them not being able to dap up after the game, them not being able to do all these type of things after the game, I think is a little bit ridiculous when you are playing against him for 48 minutes and just, going at it hard. COVID doesn't just stop because a basketball game is being played. And so I will still stand by that. But what I do like is the fact that they are going to be using better masks than these surgical masks. These surgical masks are helpful, but, according to Dr. Fauci now, and of course, this is coming from Dr. Fauci, this is coming from the CDC. So YouTube, I'm just prefacing it with that. They are recommending that you wear 2 masks in this instance. And so, like I said, this is going to be a very interesting situation to kind of see and talk about. And so I'm just letting you know, YouTube, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what Dr. Fauci and the CDC have recommended when it comes to those surgical masks, the blue ones that everyone seems to be littering now. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that blue mask on the floor as I'm driving by the school that I work at, and also just kind of, I would say, on the roads, on the sidewalk, like it is rampant with those masks. So again, that's what the CDC and the WHO are organizing. But like I said, I think this is great for the NBA to be mandating that they wear better masks because, like I said, the better, the more safe you can be in terms of like your masks and other things like that. Social distancing is still going to be number one for me. And I think it should be number one for everybody. Also get outside, exercise, be healthy. I know that's not what the WHO recommend, or the CDC and the WHO recommend, but man, if there's something that I could tell you guys, it is get outside and do some exercise. That's all I can recommend to you guys. So hopefully YouTube doesn't take me down for that, but I do think that you do need some vitamin D. You need to go outside, get some exercise, because I think that's really another thing that we kind of forgot. I shouldn't say we, but I should say people at the higher ups kind of forgot that that's also something you have to do so you don't get sick and end up, getting other diseases as well. But like I said, this is also a great situation for the NBA to be mandating these 2 masks because they will definitely help. I do think that they need to work on that. And they need to get better in terms of, making sure that players are safe. And the interesting thing and the hard thing that I could see from the NBA from this standpoint is that those masks, I will tell you, coaching right now, kind of also doing stuff outside and also wearing that mask, because I kind of want to see what it's like working out in one of those, and also, doing basketball workouts in those as well. And I can tell you, man, those things are really, they're not for the faint of heart. I'll tell you that. You definitely don't want to be doing rigorous activities or rigorous exercise in those, because they are preventing you from breathing. I do think that it does stifle your breathing a little bit. But I do think that if you let these players, in the cool down area, let them cool down, catch their breath, then put on the mask, then I think it's okay. So we'll see what the NBA does. I know that the NBA probably is able to, through other, whatever means necessary, they're going to get those masks for these players and, provide them with those type of masks. But at the same time, our NBA players going to treat those masks and treat the situation in a similar boat, right? Are they going to, I would say, not throw these masks around like I see on the sidewalk? Are these masks going to be actually used? Can they be reused? That I know that with KN95 masks, you can reuse them through UV light. And other situations like that. So it will be interesting to see what goes on in that situation. But again, guys, this will be something that we will look at from the future here on out. And it looks like I just lost the only guy watching with me. So, we probably will be only going probably another couple minutes, and then I will have to sign out of here and get ready for basketball workouts, which are happening relatively soon. But let's kind of go back to kind of one of the main stories. Again, we talked about the disinformation as it pertains to the Bradley Beal story. So again, guys, do be aware of stories like that, because I do think that it is spreading some misinformation. So we got 2 more stories to talk about, and then we'll kind of sign out of here and say sayonara. Tyrese Halliburton and LaMelo Ball were named Rookie of the Month. So we know that right now Halliburton's averaging 11, 5, and 3, where LaMelo Ball is averaging 12, 5, and 6. So I think that this, to me, is a very interesting race. It's a race that I think it's going to come down to the wire, because you're going to see that Halliburton and Ball are going to start eventually for their team. And you can see that those guys are ready, man. Like, you see how Halliburton commands the second unit for the Sacramento Kings. You see how LaMelo Ball commands the presence of all the starters around him, making it easier for guys like, I believe Cody Zeller's on that team. You got Bismack Biyombo. Makes it so much easier for those guys to score the rock and to actually be involved in the offense. And I think LaMelo Ball is kind of proving to be the best ball brother out of all of them. And I do think that, although, Logan isn't a huge fan of Lonzo Ball, I do think that at the same time, he is a good player. But I do think that his brother's a lot better at this point. I mean, we're seeing how his brother is able to command the floor, command presence, shoot the ball better than he is right now. And also, offensively finish around the rim. That's something that LaMelo Ball has still... or sorry, not LaMelo, but Lonzo has still yet to do in his career at this point. So it is frustrating, as someone that does root for Lonzo, that he hasn't really gotten that fully developed yet in his game. But Halliburton, man, I think that it's a close race. I still have Halliburton in this race, because I do think that he's a better player in terms of playmaking abilities, in terms of scoring the rock. I think he's a little bit more of a consistent three-point shooter compared to LaMelo. I don't know why I'm mixing those two up now, but that's kind of my opinion on that. But again, guys, let me know in the comment section down below, from yesterday's podcast, but also to today's live stream, who is the better player right now? Is it LaMelo Ball or is it Tyrese Halliburton? Like I said, let me know in the comment section down below. Now, moving on to our next story, we also have the NBA and the NBA PA progressing on an agreement towards holding an AllStar Game on March 7th. So if we remember last year's AllStar Game was actually really fun. It was to honor, it was to honor Kobe Bryant. And it was kind of like, I believe it was trying to get to 124 or something like that, where it was like, one of those type of scores where you try to get to a certain amount and you have to get it within a certain amount of situation. I believe that the first and second quarter, those points kind of added up, so it got you even closer. So at the end, both teams kind of start off similarly, but one team might have an advantage compared to the other team. So I do think that it is interesting to see that the NBA is trying to continue on with an All-Star Game. And the article goes on to say this: the NBA and the NBA PA are progressing towards an agreement to hold the All-Star Game on March 7th in Atlanta in a single-night event, including an East versus West games and skills competition. Safety protocols are among the details still being ironed out. Outside of the conference finals, the AllStar Game is traditionally a top fan engagement for the league. The NBA has set a mid-season break point for March 5th through 10th. Chris Paul has been an advocate of an Atlanta All-Star Game idea, including plans to use the game to benefit historically black colleges and universities and COVID-19 relief, which, hey, man, if that's what Chris Paul wants to do, man, I am all for it. Chris Paul, I think, is probably one of the better leaders, I would say, from the NBA PA perspective, because I think he does care about not only the players, but also, like you said, the HBCUs that have honestly deserved some of the money that they needed, trying to keep afloat. It is hard to keep up with these like Dukes and Alabamas and, these kind of schools that, accumulate so much money. So it is great to see that Chris Paul is going to be using it to benefit those places, and also with COVID-19 relief, because we know that a lot of places, businesses, people are struggling even to this day, which is unfortunate, but it's the sad reality of where the world is at right now at the moment. So I do think that that's also an awesome idea, and I hope that they are able to have that game, because I think that it would be a nice game for everybody. It would be a nice game for the fans to watch at home. I know, LeBron James had to deal with a Karen on the sideline. I mean, that we'll actually, no, I don't even want to talk about that, because that's just honestly clownish. If you guys want to look up on that stuff, it is on Twitter. This lady and her husband, the husband looks like he's about 84 years old. The woman looks like she's like 48, saying that she's 25. I'm calling cap on that as well. But again, guys, it's just one of those things where, you're heckling LeBron James. What do you expect? I mean, what are you going to really do? Like, you're going to talk to each other. You're going to talk and talk. LeBron James didn't want them escorted, but of course security and the refs were like, no, they got to go. And so, excuse me, at the end of the day, it is what it is. But yeah, I do think that having it in Atlanta would be an awesome idea. Hopefully they can have some fans. I would preferably not like courtside seat fans, because we obviously saw what happened the other night. Kind of also get them away from the players as well, because I do think that it does add some unnecessary risk if those people are on the floor in the same kind of level sphere as, I would say, a LeBron James or any of these other all-stars that, might have to dive into the stands or dive into that area, and they're not wearing their masks, because we saw the lady was last night not wearing it at all. Whether she was drinking or whether she was eating, it doesn't matter. Like, she just didn't have it on at all when engaging in with LeBron James. And so I do think that this would be fun, but let's try and get those people out, have them sit in the regular seats with the plebeians. And I think that'd be a lot better for the NBA to kind of deal with. But I do think that it is a smart idea to get an All-Star game there. I do think that it would be fun. It would be an interesting game. Hopefully they do it like last year, so I think that's probably the way that get more fan interest, get more people involved, actually have people play defense, play hard. That's what everyone's looking for at this point. So hopefully they are able to accomplish that. And again, guys, that's kind of it for kind of stories. We also see that Miles Leonard is out with shoulder surgery, so he will not be with the Miami Heat for very much longer. Of course, we got, Evan Mobley out of USC. We got here that the Wizards are reportedly trying to acquire Masai Ujiri, which we will be talking about tomorrow. Talking about that whole situation, because I do think that is a very interesting topic to talk about. And like I said, in terms of anything else, I don't think that there is much to talk about in terms of ESPN or anything like that. Whoops. Any of those type of stories. We know that Texas and Baylor, college game is going to be really good. The NBA is going to tighten the mask rule. And then if we go to the NBA, again, we're just looking at mock drafts, Lou lottery picks, who's on the rise, who's on the fall. And we'll be talking about this list in the near future as we look at what could be possibly happening in terms of our top 5 picks. But again, guys, this has, of course, been your boy Bernie. Thank you once again for joining me. I do apologize for a shorter stream. I would love to stream more, but of course, I want you guys to also get on with your day as well. And when we do have more people, we'll be able to stay on longer. But like I said, Tuesdays and Thursdays are probably going to be about this time. So if you guys are interested in watching my content, make sure that you are aware that Tuesdays and Thursdays are probably going to be around this time, whereas the other days might be around 6, except for Friday. We'll figure something out for Friday because I really want to get a consistent schedule with you guys. So be on the lookout as it pertains to that. But like I said, guys, thank you so much for joining me here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions with the emphasis on basketball opinions, which, like I said, are mine and my own. And I just want to make it clear that I am not some sort of insider. I don't know all the things and details. We're only speculating on what could happen on things that we don't know about. But anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie. Please remember to hit that like button. Also remember to hit that subscribe button. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.
I've been trying to call. I've been on my own for long enough. Maybe you can show me how to love. Maybe I'm going through withdrawals. You don't even have to do too much. You can turn me on with just a touch, baby. I look around and since city's cold and empty, no one's around to judge me. I can see clearly when you're gone. I say I'm blinded by the lights. Now I can't sleep late till I feel your touch. I say I'm drowning in the night. Oh, when I'm like this, you're the one I trust. I'm running out of time, 'cause I can see the sun light up the sky. So I hit the road in overdrive, baby. The city's cold and empty, no one's around to judge me. I can see clearly where you're going. I say I'm blinded by the lights. Now I can't sleep late till I feel your touch. I say I'm drowning in the night. Oh, when I'm like this, you're the one I trust. I'm just walking by to let you know I can never say it on the phone. We'll never let you go this time. I say I'm blinded by the lights. Now I can't sleep late till I feel your touch. I say I'm drowning in the night. Oh, when I'm like this, you're the one I trust. And all I am is a man. I want the world in my hands. I hate the beach, but I stand in California with my toes in the sand. Used to sleep in my sweater. Let's have an adventure. Head in the clouds, but my gravity's centered. Touching my neck, and I'll touch yours. You and those little high-waisted shorts. Oh, she knows what I think about, and what I think about. One love, two mouths, one love, one house. No shirt, no blouse, just ask, you find out. Nothing that I wanna tell you about, no, 'cause it's too cold.